Look, not a lot of intrigue in the matchup this week, right? And I'm not trying to break that game down significantly. LSU is a very, very talented team. It's in the top 5. Louisiana Tech has been on hard times in the Sonny Cumbie era, and last week wasn't very inspiring as they beat Southeastern 24-0. I'll talk a little bit about Tech as we move forward, but I want to really focus on LSU because that's the most important thing in this game. Y'all have heard me now for 3-4 years talk about press conferences, talk about quotes in player interviews, and devalue a significant amount that we hear from coaches and athletes across the sports that we cover. And I stand by that, generally speaking. It's not a hard and fast rule. It's just something that I've learned over the course of going to a lot of press conferences and conducting a lot of interviews. A lot of players and coaches get onto the cliches, and they don't generally say a lot. Doesn't mean it never happens, but it doesn't happen a lot. But I have, to that point, heard a lot of teams talk, heard a lot of players talk. I've covered terrible teams. I've covered championship teams. And this is early, and it may be prisoner of the moment type stuff. I am fully admitting that to you right now. I'm not preaching this as gospel. I'm making an observation that I think is worthwhile of bringing forward. I really, really, really like the way this team thinks and talks. It's early. They've played 4 quarters of football. We got 3 months of this to go. But what we know is that this is a very old team. There were 2 guys in the starting lineup of the top 22 last weekend that are second or first year players. You had Caden Durham, and you had basically McKinley, Bro, whoever was in there at a given time. But essentially, you had old guys. Woodland started. I think the starting tackles were maybe Guillory and Gooden, who didn't qualify as first and second year players. Trades Green scored a touchdown, played a lot. He's a second year player, but Bauer Sharp started. It's old guys. Nussmeier's old. Braylon Moore's old. On the offensive front, Tyree Adams, year 3. Josh Thompson, year 4. You're looking at guys that are old. Braylon Moore's old. Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson, old. Jack Piber, Weeks Brothers, Gooden, Guillory, Mansour Delane, A.J. Halsey, Jordan Gilbert, Harold Perkins. Old. And these guys, to me, the way that I watch them play and the way that you hear them talk and then the way that the coaches talk about them, there seems to be unity in the way that they talk. They all talk about 1-0. They talk about a nameless, faceless opponent. They talk about the process. I wrote a column on LouisianaSports.net this morning that laid out all the quotes that we heard from West Weeks and Mansour Delane. I asked Mansour Delane, is it going to be tough to kind of get up for the next week? And he was like, not at all, because that game's over, and we got much bigger goals than beating Clemson. They're locked in. And I like the way that sounds. It sounds a lot like the 2023 baseball team to me. And I heard those guys talk for 4 months, and they were immensely talented. And they had a cheat code at the front of the rotation who's going to win the Cy Young this year. But LSU's got a really good quarterback, and that defense looked awesome. And we know the playmakers that are on offense. And I'm not going to sit here on the Friday before they played Louisiana freaking Tech and tell you they're going to win the national championship. I'm aware that there is a recency bias here, and there's a bit of a prisoner of the moment thing here, but I'm just telling you what I like watching this team and listening to this team talk. And we talked to Wes Weeks on Wednesday about last year's Nicholls game. And he said, yep, didn't have any edge. Did not have the edge. And he admitted that. I said, well, what do you think about this year, this week? It's different because y'all won last week, but USC to Nicholls, Clemson to Louisiana Tech, there are parallels there. And he said, completely different. I thought Tuesday and Wednesday were our best 2 practices of the year. That's what Wes Weeks told us. And you hear Brian Kelly talk, and he talks about having a veteran team. And he talks about how these guys are accountable and how he's got a great leadership group. And they were focused in the portal and pulling in guys that they thought could add leadership with their talent. Leadership without talent is good. It doesn't win championships. You got to have both. And right now, it feels like LSU has both. They got a long way to go. They got a lot of good teams on the schedule. And our conversation completely changes next week against Florida when you step back up in class. But when I watch this team come out of the tunnel tomorrow, I think Louisiana Tech is in for a world of hurt. Keep in mind, Nichols was within 2 points midway through the third quarter last year. They couldn't shake the cobwebs. I think LSU is going to just eviscerate Louisiana Tech tomorrow. And that really has no bearing on what they do the rest of the way, because if you beat Louisiana Tech 58-0 or 35-20, it doesn't really matter. It's not significant. But I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be an evisceration, because I think this team is going to show up focused, disciplined, and give one hell of an effort tomorrow night in a celebratory Tiger Stadium. Like, that's what I think. And we'll see what happens with Florida that next week, and then you've got basically 2 weeks off with Southeastern and an open date before you really get into it. But you played a really good team last week, and they were focused and locked in and ready to play. That defense did not commit a penalty in the game. That defense did not allow a run of 10 yards in the game. They were not gashed for big plays at any point. The offense stuck to a plan, running the ball, stuck to a plan with a short passing game. I thought the execution was very, very good. They missed a field goal. You fumbled on a poor coach's decision to go for it on fourth down. It wasn't perfect, but it was really good. And there's just a lot of really good vibes coming out of that football program right now. And I probably wouldn't spend a segment to start the show talking about that if I really needed to dive into, well, how does LSU block this guy on Saturday night? Or, man, what a quarterback this guy is. How do they deal with him in this way? What do they do with Harold Perkins? You think you can stop this type of receiver who's got this body set? Like, that's what I will generally be talking about on Fridays. It doesn't apply this week because Louisiana Tech's completely overmatched. My big takeaway from this week, and a lot of it had to do with being in that room interviewing the players on Wednesday night, which I wrote about at LouisianaSports.net. There's a real unified message and delivery from this team that is mature, that is focused, and we already know just how good the talent is, and I believe in that coaching staff as well. I think LSU's on to something this year. I really do. And you can call that prisoner moment because they just beat Clemson, call that a deflection because they're facing Louisiana Tech and you're not breaking down that game. I'm just telling you how I feel. And half the time I get accused of being a homer. Half the time I get told that I try to be too pessimistic. I just call it like I see it. And I see this team being pretty damn good. They got a really hard schedule. And you never know over the course of a season what breaks you get, what injuries crop up. You're not going to be completely healthy the whole time, and they got a long way to go. Saturday is going to be a lot of fun. Campus is going to be fun. The stadium's going to have some buzz to it because of the win last week. The team's going to take the field with the Golden Band from Tigerland out there, and I think LSU is going to really come out and play a great football game against Louisiana Tech. And then you move on to conference play next week, and it's going to be one heck of an environment inside Tiger Stadium for Florida. That's, to me, the big narrative from this week. I wanted to lead. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.